This video is sponsored by Audible. Right now, for a limited time, you can get 3 months of Audible for just $6.95 a month. That's more than half off the regular price. Visit audible.com/oyum or text OYUM to 500-500.
You can call it a Buche de Noel, you can call it a Yule Log, but my tiramisu version, well, it's a twist on a holiday favorite. What I need to do is make a jelly roll sponge cake. So I'm starting by sifting a 1/4 cup of icing sugar into 4 egg yolks. Now I'll add some instant espresso powder, a teaspoon of that. I'll also pour in a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And just make sure the icing sugar is blended in with the yolks. Now I'll whip my egg whites, and to help them along, 1/2 teaspoon of cream of tartar. I'll whip this up until the whites hold a medium peak. As I'm whipping, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar. Lovely. Before I fold these into my egg yolks, I need a bit of flour. 3/4 of a cup of cake and pastry flour. Set that aside and whisk that in. You'll find at this point you have a bit of a thick paste, but it's not too heavy. That way you can work in your egg whites easily. And I'll add these in to my egg yolks. Lift from the bottom, pull up. It's not heavy work. They're light, fluffy egg whites. And now I'm ready to spread this in my pan. You want to spread the batter into a level layer within the pan. All right. I've got some great news. This is one of the quickest baking cakes. It only takes 12 to 14 minutes in a 350 oven.
We'll get back to the Buche de Noel recipe right after I tell you about one of my favorite unexpected kitchen tools, Audible. When I'm in the kitchen creating a new recipe, I love listening to an audiobook. I'm totally hands-free when I'm up to my elbows in dough. Audible content includes an unmatched selection of audiobooks, so you'll never run out of amazing stories and recipes to listen to when you're in the kitchen. Recently, I've been listening to Shadow of Night by Deborah Harkness while I've been working on recipes for my latest cookbook. Plus, there are Audible Originals. Audible Originals are exclusive audio titles created by celebrated storytellers from worlds as diverse as theater, journalism, literature, and more. It's the time of year when everyone is thinking about thoughtful gifts. Think about giving yourself the gift of an Audible membership. Now is the best time to do it with a special offer of 53% off your first 3 months. If you're interested in trying Audible and supporting OYUM, please visit audible.com/OYUM, or if you live in the US, you can text OYUM to 500-500. Now let's get back to that tiramisu Buche de Noel.
Take my tea towel, flip it upside down. Now, the dusting of icing sugar on top of the cake is just so that it doesn't stick to the tea towel as it cools. You actually fold the tea towel into the cake as you're rolling it up. It's so flexible right now, it's easy to handle. And now I let it cool to room temperature in the tea towel like this. This builds in the jelly roll memory. So, set this aside. Now it's time to make that mascarpone filling. I want to measure 1.5 ounces of boiling hot water, and I'm pouring this over 3 ounces of baking chocolate. I add a teaspoon of espresso powder into my chocolate water. There it is, rich and decadent mascarpone cheese. It's what tiramisu is all about. I need a cup of this, and I need a little sugar. I have some extra here from my jelly roll cake. I'll just sift it and measure out 1/3 of a cup. And you don't need to do anything fancy here, just smooth it out a little bit so it's easy to work with. I'll add my cooled chocolate mixture. This is one of those combinations. The chocolate, the mascarpone, the hint of coffee. So creamy and rich. Now I'll add 4 cups of whipped cream. What I need right now is just a cup of this. The rest of the cream I used for the top of my Buche de Noel. Now, it will be soft as you're assembling it, but once chilled, it sets up beautifully. So now I'm going to take my cooled jelly roll cake, unroll it, and see how it's got that curl to it? It just stays in place. I'm gonna leave it on the towel for now and put on my cream filling. Spread it on the inside. Now you sort of lift up and over. Don't take the tea towel with it this time around. And fold. This is really starting to take shape, and it's a far cry from a traditional tiramisu, but this is all about the wow factor. All those flavors in a Yule log. So the topping, I have my remaining whipped cream, and I need to add a little sweetness to it. 3 tablespoons of sugar, and I add 1.5 tablespoons of skim milk powder. And of course, let's work in a teaspoon of that espresso powder. All right, and give it a light whisk just to work everything in. There we go. I dollop the cream on top of the Yule log, and then I gradually work it down the sides, spreading it into an even layer. It just needs a few added touches. First, a dusting of cocoa powder. In a traditional Yule log, it was meant to actually look like dirt from the woods. Now, I have some sugared accents here, and they just look like snow-covered branches from the forest. Oh, and look at that. This is definitely a dessert you want to present to the table, let everyone admire, maybe a couple of photographs. Oh, this is going to disappear pretty quickly.